Hi everyone, welcome to our Stop and Chat episode. Today we have Jonnie joining us. Someone who has lived, worked, and done business in over 50 countries. Jonnie, welcome to our episode. You're also the co-founder and CEO of Workfree, and who's in a mission of really fueling growth for over 1 million freelancers and flexible workforces around the world. Sounds very, very exciting. The journey you must be in.
It is. It is exciting, challenging, but a lot of fun and something that we believe in. So that's what gets us out of bed every single morning. But yeah, nice to be here, Pedro.
Awesome. Johnny, in your experience, what are the most pressing challenges that freelancers and flexible workers are facing in today's global economy and remote work environment?
Yeah, good question. I think the two biggest challenges by far are finding work. Obviously, it's very competitive, but then also getting paid on time. I think if you had a sort of softer challenge underneath that, it's social connectivity, especially fueled by COVID when everybody's been locked away and trying to figure out how they should work going forward. So that social element exists as well, but really the macroeconomic climate has made it challenging for freelancers in general, right? There's perhaps a little bit less money going around, less work, forces lower rates, etc. There's more people that have been laid off than ever before, which means that there are more freelancers or more people moving into that freelancer consultant space, and therefore more competition. So there's quite a few challenges that freelancers need to navigate. But yeah, there's a lot of good companies out there trying to support and to help those.
So you believe demand is decreasing and supply is increasing?
I think I know that supply is increasing and demand is challenging in terms of where to find that. So it's not that there are less people hiring freelancers or less companies hiring freelancers. I think it's more the challenge for talent to figure out how to best capture that opportunity. 90% of work is found through referrals in the
Mhm.
freelance landscape. It's not on platforms. It only captures a very small percentage point today, even if there are big billion-dollar marketplaces, et cetera, that exist. There's only a small percentage of work that actually gets distributed through them. So the question really is for talent, how do we go out there and find those opportunities and stay competitive?
And we have been facing like very strong growth in terms of new technologies, in terms of how people are operating in companies. Looking ahead, like how should freelancers prepare for changes in emerging trends and technologies and really stay competitive so they can be successful?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Um, I think one piece of advice I would definitely give, having been in the freelancer space now for the last couple of years running and building Workfree, is to be connected closely with communities that can support you. So what I mean by that is that there are many, many talent communities developing all over the world, being led by inspirational freelancers that are operators today or have been in the past. And those communities offer an opportunity for freelancers to connect, obviously, in the social level, but to knowledge transfer, to learn, to upskill and educate, but then also to transfer work opportunities, to refer each other. And if I go back a couple of steps, maybe to the birth of Workfree and where our whole journey began, my wife and my co-founder, actually, Amy, she got her first freelance job through a female entrepreneur community when we lived in
Mhm.
the Middle East. So we had our second child, and the first job that she got was from a trusted referral through a community, and that's actually where most of her work then came from. And we've seen that at a global level becoming something um, uh, quite exciting for freelancers. It's growing a lot, but definitely advice that I would give to anybody starting out, you know, try to find a good community that you can tap into and to learn from.
Now, spinning a bit to the managers side, managers of freelancers and contract workers, how can they support freelancers to obviously continue being delivering at the highest level? And also, which I think is something that is very challenging, and I always try to get it better, is how are you seeing managers in the relationships that you have motivating these freelancers and making them feeling part of the organization? So a bit of a long question here.
No, it's a good question. You're
Yeah.
spot on. I think it's challenging. Listen, on the one hand, it's challenging. On the other hand, it shouldn't be, right? So in the end, it's just a different type of legal contract. People are people. You're working with people that are doing a job, bringing skills to the organization, helping the business to grow. So when you look at it that way, why should a freelancer be treated any differently from a full-time employee? It's just more the regulation and the compliance and the legal aspect that sits around it. So I think a lot of what managers learn when it comes to building a team of full-time employees, those skills can be translated to building a flexible workforce of freelancers, consultants, and full-time employees. Are you setting great expectations? Are you communicating well? Are you rewarding top performance? Are you giving constructive feedback when it's needed based on the output of a job? And I think within flexible teams, it's really important for managers to be perhaps even better at those things. When you're not working with somebody in the office and you're controlling their day to day, then you need to be really, really good at setting that clear expectation of what is expected at the beginning. And you can offer the opportunity, I suppose, for freelancers to come and join in on a social event. You can't mandate it, but you can definitely offer the opportunity. You can also involve them in company updates, cultural onboarding in different ways. Doesn't need to just be, a party at the end of a quarter or at the end of a product launch. It can be as simple as providing some sort of interesting company update on the growth of the business and where the business is going and asking their opinion. So I think these things go a really long way. And I think incentivizing top performance can also be a very easy mechanism to retain top flexible talent just as much as you do with top full-time talent. So when you think of, tech companies, for example, they normally keep 10, 15, 20% aside for early stage employees, key executives, etc. You can also reward freelancers and consultants with equitable sharing in the business if the business goes well and their contributions have helped. So I think there are lots of different tools that exist and they can be spread across both sides, but it's having an actual plan and a strategy and then executing on that, I think, that counts. So it doesn't need to be reinventing the wheel, just repositioning it for the type of person that you're employing and making sure that you can do that within the legal boundaries that you're operating.
Yeah. You touched on a very interesting point, which is equity for contractors and equity for freelancers. What perspectives and what strategies have you been seeing companies using, but also freelancers starting to evolve into? I think that it has been evolving, like something, for example, in US, has been much more mature around equity for work. I think in Europe, we are catching up a bit. But what have you been seeing also on both sides of the coin?
Yeah, look, I see some companies that have it as part of their strategy from day one. They're very intentional, especially newer businesses that are starting out, and they're, of course, trying to compete with bigger businesses, with bigger brand names, and therefore that approach is quite intelligent to bring in top talent, maybe when they're paying lower rates or when they're really trying to get that talent to buy into the vision. So I do see a lot of startups using equity as a mechanism to hit that initial traction and to attract good talent, whether it's freelance or full-time. And look, from our own experience, I can't talk to all the different markets around the world, but from our own experience, that's something also that we've decided to do from the very beginning. And the reason that we've decided to do that is based on my previous experience in fast-growing startups as a full-time employee, as an executive. We didn't offer equitable ownership and rewards to consultants in those companies, and I felt like we should do. And therefore, starting Workfree, we thought, let's build a platform where we build it with freelancers, we reward freelancers with equitable sharing, and we kind of create more of a community around the business than just rewarding full-time employees, etc. So I don't know. Everyone's a bit different, but I think it's definitely a strategy that's being adopted a bit more. And in Europe, whilst the regulatory landscape is quite complex and fragmented, as we all know, maybe more so than in the US, there are a lot of businesses that are platforms that are growing to support that opportunity for founders, especially when they want to create equitable sharing with freelancers. So yeah, I think there's more and more opportunities existing to make that and to enable that to become an easier thing to do.
To close our conversation today, looking at challenges, what are the challenges that companies are facing when engaging freelancers and contract workers? What are the main ones that you're seeing, and how can platforms like yourself and others out there help the companies mitigate these challenges?
Yeah, definitely a few. So I think to begin, sourcing and finding talent, as obvious as it may seem, there's a lot of talent out there. I think there's over 1 billion freelancers, give or take. Depends what sort of statistic you're reading and what source these days around the world, and that's only going to grow further, right? So where do you actually find the skills that you're looking for? How can you find those skills at the right speed and also the right price? So I think that is the biggest challenge, just as it is for a freelancer finding work. Like how can companies find the right talent? So the platforms that exist, the incumbents at least out there, they can also be challenging to work with. You don't know if it's a trusted freelancer. There's a race to the bottom sort of rates war going on, and it can be challenging, right? So I think figuring out the best place to get a trusted recommendation or a referral, or to have automated matching of skills to the role that you're trying to source for. Those things are definitely something that most companies are looking to try to achieve, and it's easier said than done. Contracting, obviously, once you've picked that freelancer that you want to work with, it's not as easy as just deciding that you'll work together. Do you have a contract in place that is compliant, that does lay out very clear expectations on both sides in terms of deliverables, the payments, dispute resolution as and when it may occur? I think that's really, really important. And so having support in that space is critical. And then payments. You find the talent, got the contract done. Can you actually pay them? Are you legally able to pay them? Often these become questions for the smallest companies who just don't have the time or the energy or the understanding, maybe the experience to navigate that space. And then also when you grow into the bigger enterprise businesses, as you guys will know, there's a whole different field of challenges around that. So I think it really does start at the top. Have I got the right talent? Am I contracting correctly, compliantly, and can I pay? And not just can I pay, can I do it in a way that's going to create a great experience for the person that I'm working with? Because in the end, working with freelancers, just as you do with full-time employees, you've got to become the employer of choice. You want to make sure that you've got a trusted talent pool that you can lean on when the project calls, and that you give a great experience. So you should really try to retain that top talent. And I think getting that process right between finding, managing, and paying is critical. So long answer to a short question.
Exactly. A follow-on to this before we close. A couple of weeks back, I was with a lot of senior executives in Bangalore, and one of their main challenges, or one of the key challenges they had, was moonlighting, and folks really engaging with several different providers and trying to work like 4 or 5 jobs, 4 or 5 projects, almost full time at the same time. Are you seeing this surfacing a lot, and how are the companies you're working with mitigating this?
Yeah, look, I think I've heard this too, and within my own personal network. Like, I think portfolio careers, from our point of view, are inevitable. I think the way the work landscape is growing, and how freelance work is evolving, it's kind of giving rise to freelancers being able to run 4, 5, 6 different pieces of work at any point in time, which is fantastic for them because it can be lucrative. They can learn a lot and really transfer their skills to the right businesses. For companies, I think it's really important, again, just to go back to the basics. Like, have I got the right talent that I'm working with? Have we got clear expectations? Is there a good way of work together? And if yes, then that's good, right? If somebody is working 3, 4, 5 different companies or jobs on the side, why should that be a problem as long as the work that's getting done for your business is being done at the best level possible? So from my point of view, and I think from our point of view, how you work, where you work, and when you work, it doesn't really matter as long as the job gets done.
Yeah.
And the job gets done when there's clear expectations and there's measurable metrics against that, or agreed goals. So depends on the leader. I think to answer your question on a simple level, it depends on leadership, how they perceive that. But yeah, a challenge for some.
Definitely. Jonnie, it was great connecting with you and sharing a bit of your experience working with freelancers and seeing both perspectives from companies and freelancers. Thank you for joining today.
Thanks, Pedro.